Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. My name is Lance Mckinnon. I'm here with my co-host Tiffany Linderman. Good morning, Tiffany. How are you this morning?
Whew, I am refreshed. Good morning. How are you doing?
I am doing absolutely wonderful. Drinking my 5 acres coffee from Good Brothers Coffee Shop in Midtown Harrisburg. You got this stuff is lighting it up. So, do we have a guest today, Tiffany?
Oh my goodness, we absolutely do. We have Miss Lisa Perez, who is the wonderful and beautiful author of Beautiful Is. And I have started reading this book, but there it is. Look how beautiful that is. Seriously.
Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Good morning. I am doing well, thank you, and thanks for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for this beautiful book. I've actually already had the chance to read it, and I just want to commend you on it. It's written eloquently, fantastic. There's not enough words I can say about this book. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about it, but I also want to talk about how you packaged it. We send things out all the time, but I want to go back to just the covering of this book and the way you sent it, and just please tell us, our followers, your story.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you like the packaging. I wanted it to emulate the title, and that when people receive the book, they know there's something beautiful that they are receiving. And the title "Beautiful is what my inspiration was from my mother. And the whole book, it's not really about my mom, but it's about what occurred between my mom and I. She became ill, and my mother was never ill before, and so this was something different. It was rare she even had a cold. And then all of a sudden, one day, she had a little mini stroke out of nowhere, and that landed her in the hospital. And then from there, she started, she was in one day, out the other. It was a minor stroke, and they let her out, and she started to go to all the specialists, and no one could find anything. She had a little high blood pressure that she had been taking medication for, but she was continuing to look, to go through all the specialists that she needed to do. And then on the 28th of December of 2018, she was getting ready to see the cardiologist. And at that point, at the time, as she was getting ready in the morning, she stroked again. And this time it wasn't a minor stroke. It was a stroke that landed her in the hospital. And so she was in the hospital for 37 days. And during that time, she stroked 3 more times. And so my mother is my best friend. I mean, I didn't need anybody else in the world. I have my mom, I'm married, I have my son, but as far as women in my life, my mom was it. And she was a very beautiful woman. And I don't say that just as a proud daughter, because all daughters believe that their mothers are beautiful. But she truly was this stunning woman who took good care of herself throughout her life. And, this sickness that she had was taking that from her, that physical beauty. And so, because I'm her only daughter, I'm her only child, I was there with her the whole time. And I was watching how the physical beauty that I had grown up with, that she was, part of what I knew her as was diminishing. But in light of all that, my mother started, what became very apparent is she was starting to show me a whole different type of what beautiful is. And, I have a background, I have a master's in psychology. I focus on health and wellness. And, when you're as a wellness professional, it's always about how do we thrive, not just survive, and what does flourishing look like in all aspects of our life. And at the time, you know, we didn't have it, nobody could give us answers. And so it was all about advocating and trying to seek out what is this mysterious disease that has taken my mother. But during that time, the uncertainty of everything, the way my mother was handling it, with so much grace and courage, and really dealing with this in a well way, in a very trying moment, it just struck me. It just struck me. And so one time during those 37 days, it was about 2 weeks into her journey. It was a moment about 2 a.m. when it was calm. She seemed resting peacefully there. And at this point, she's having ice chips, and I had soft music playing, and it just kind of came to me. Beautiful is, you know, soft music and pillows and ice chips to ease the night. And from that moment, I realized we are now working in a whole other domain of what beautiful is. And that was what helped me to hold on and keep myself grounded. Because at that point, it would be so easy to just lose it. And in order to be present with my mother, I knew that I just needed to hold on to what beautiful is, and because she was doing the very same thing. And so she's the one that guided me to understand what that was, and through her strength. And you know, my mother passed away on February 2nd, and we did not get the diagnosis until the day before she passed. And my mother ended up passing with an aggressive form of lymphoma.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we had the funeral, and after she passed, I think my grieving and just the challenge of how do you live life without your mother or your best friend. These beautiful is quotes just kept popping into my head. I'd go for a walk, and, you know, out of nowhere, beautiful is. And I realize now, because, you know, it's almost been 4 years. I realized that was me trying to hold on to something to keep my sense of being present instead of, losing it. And so it really became a source of strength. But I truly believe, I don't even believe, I know that these quotes were inspired by my mother. These were the gifts she left me, because my mother is a very resilient, strong woman. And, she had these thoughts of how I used to call them Eva-isms, because she had these little sayings, and I believe that's what I gravitated as I started seeking out those that related to what beautiful is. And so there you have it. You have the book, and I never really intended to write a book, but as I was putting these quotes out, I would share them with friends and family. People would say, wow, this really speaks to me. And I never intended to write a book on grief. I kind of was in denial of even acknowledging that a little bit. But at the same time, I needed something to feed my spirit. And so I wrote it with the intention that we all go through a grieving process, whether we're grieving over, I would think we're all grieving because of our current circumstances due to COVID. We grieve the loss of being able to socialize like we used to go places like we used to, or, job situations. Just, we have all types of grief at all levels. And so that's what I wrote the book with, that intention. And I ended up having 150 of these quotes. These are the, and I really felt that this was my mother just guiding me, just like, don't go there. Just hang on, hold on to what beautiful is and just get to the next day. And boy, 150 quotes later, there I was. And to this day, every now and then I go back, I'm like, I need to read my own book and remember what beautiful is. And so I use that as a resource, and it just touches my heart, hearing your thoughts about the book, and you're one of others that have given me those same sentiments. So I truly love that, because I feel that's something that I still share with my mother, and this is our new journey. Is we get to talk about the book, and I get to talk about her, and I feel her presence with me.
That's absolutely wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. I know you and I, Lisa, we have talked in length. I just recently lost my father,
Yeah,
and so we've talked about that, and that's why we don't have Superman on our show, because there's only one Superman,
of course.
and that was my father. Um, but we've gone into great lengths, and one of the great quotes that you have written in here is I want to kind of go back, because I always said my father would always give me nuggets, and he never repeated himself. I called him Proverbs, and because he'd always be looking down, and he'd always give me a little parable of something. And so I think a lot of that, when we talk, we are related.
Yes,
So
how we connect to that and we relate to that is
yeah. And there was one quote in here, "Beautiful is," and I would just want to read it. It's "Beautiful is giving yourself permission to open your heart to joy despite the burdens of life's challenges."
yeah.
And that one hit really home to me, and that I think will hit home with a lot of people. I think you touched on that about we're all facing some sort of challenge.
Yeah.
But I think we need to learn how to dance in the storm
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and find that happy moment. But it's different for everybody,
it
and
does. It is.
everybody's going to go through different stages. So reading this has really brought, and having conversations with you has brought a lot of great insight
Ah,
to me and our connection, and to your mother and to my father, and that actual passage really touched me.
and I I appreciate you bringing that up, because as I mentioned, these quotes that I wrote, they really was based on the what I was feeling and experiencing at that moment. And I think every time I had one of those little moments of self-doubt or a recognition of how I am not feeling joy right now. This is not supposed to be happening, especially because in my mother's case, it was so unexpected. It really caught us all by surprise. I mean, this is a woman that was doing Zumba and running half marathons in her 50s, and Zumba up until, just within months of her getting ill. And so it's like, what is this? And recognizing that. And so realizing, what is beautiful about this? And then realizing the beauty is I have to give myself permission to do this, to have joy. I have to, I have a choice. And the book is written in a way where it's broken into 3 areas, and that is acknowledging, the pain and the anguish. We have to just acknowledge it, because there was a time when, people would ask me, "So Lisa, how are you doing?" And of course, what do we usually say when people are fine?
Fine.
Yeah, fine, fine. But inside, I could not deny what I was feeling. And so that's when I realized, I have to make a conscious effort to give myself permission. And when I wrote the book, the publisher asked me, do you, the question was, should you expand on that thought a little bit? And we decided we were not going to do that because, as you mentioned, Lance, everybody goes through that process in a different way. It's very subjective, and it's based on everyone's own personal experiences and just where they are. And so we decided, no, we're going to just leave it there and leave it to people's interpretation of however that resonates with them. And so that's why I love hearing how certain quotes touch people and what they think about it, because that's the beauty of it, is everybody gets to choose how that touches them. And so the second part is acceptance of healing, because once we acknowledge that pain, we've got to just accept that, once you've hit bottom, there's nowhere else to go but to try to raise yourself up and heal. And then the third one is affirming what is beautiful. Yeah. What is beautiful for you, Tiffany? What's beautiful for you, Lance? Could be completely different than what it is for me. And so if we can honor that and respect that we have a choice, it helps with the process.
I just have to say, I mean, as you're talking through all of it, like you said, the book and hearing your story is emotional, but it really makes you feel and think about the things that you've gone through in your life. And I'm just going to say, I feel like I'm walking through things that I've gone through in my life. And when you were talking about feeling and giving yourself the ability to be able to share and talk about those pain points or the grieving, I feel like there's always a guilt you feel like nobody wants to hear it. And I'm going to say, once again, I'm saying nobody, but I'm saying I feel like nobody wants to hear it. And so I struggle to be able to talk about it. But I think what I've learned is people, they're grieving, and somebody may have, like Lance, I know you share about your father all the time. And as you did, Lisa, your mother, I mean, it's 4 years, but that doesn't mean you're not still grieving at moments. But you now, when you think about those special moments that you remember together, whether it was, sitting on the bed, reading a book together, or going out for breakfast together, those moments when you start to have those memories, there's just pure joy remembering that loved one. And I feel like all the things that maybe were painful in your life with that person, that disappear, but those beautiful moments really come out. And I just love that you talk about that ability that you can share that story. And I absolutely love that you have this book now. I know it's not just about your mom, but it gives this open door to talk about this beautiful woman and her life story, and just what gift now you're sharing with the world by having this book. So I'm sure I'm going to call out some quotes as we talk through, but it's just a really amazing story and a beautiful gift to the world, truly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The book is really about that whole experience and how, based on those three things that I was just sharing with you, and how do we move through that in the most beautiful way? And being in retrospect, after I wrote it, I realized that, beautiful is really another word for being well. We could have said wellness is. And because that's really what it's speaking to, but I'm using the word beautiful, obviously, because of the inspiration of my beautiful mother. But she was showing me how she was transitioning in a well way, in a beautiful way. And it provided for me so much. She gave me so much courage to just move forward, because I saw her going through this, most difficult time. And she was just amazing how she was handling it. I was just stunned. How do you do this in a beautiful way? And yet she did that. And it was very inspirational. And so the book is really a testament to her. And my mother was the kind of person where, if she would, well, first of all, I don't know if she'd be a little shy, I don't do pictures, I don't do video. So I don't even know if she would want to be here with me. But if she was with you in person, Tiffany, she would look at you and she would start letting you know what's beautiful about you, and do the same for you, Lance. And she would, like, oh, you're such a wise person, or you have such a good sense of humor. And she just always did that, is find what was beautiful. But, physically, as I mentioned in the book, there's a part where I say, I grew up seeing her in physically as a beautiful woman, and never really thought more about it than that's my mom. As I mentioned in the book, you don't really look at that. You just like, that's just mom. But others tell you, oh, your mother, she's so beautiful. But then at the hospital, that's when her beauty really stood out for me, in how she managed this and handled it. And so I wanted this book to be, an extension of how my mother saw the world in a beautiful way.
Can I ask a question on that? How do
Sure.
you think your mother came to be the woman she is? I don't know if that's an easy question to answer, but where do you think that beautiful spirit that she's sharing with the world came from, and that strength? Or do you just think she just was born very stoic and strong that way?
Interesting. Wow. Well, if I think back, well, first of all, this was a woman of faith. Okay, so that was her foundation. But I also think my mother went through my parents were divorced. My mother had her trials and tribulations, but she was very kind spirited, and so she always had this essence of kindness to her. Humans, animals, strays, it didn't matter. She'd be the one bringing food to the neighbor if you needed it. She'd be the one that would go run out and get the medicine for you if you were homebound. And it's really challenged me, because it's like, okay, I'm going to take this challenge on and emulate these virtues that my mother had. And I think it's, when you are challenged, throughout your life, you have a choice. You can either become a victim of it, or you can persevere. And my mother chose to persevere in a beautiful way. And she handled herself. That was just part of her essence of who she was. And I think there's a really valuable lesson there. And I think about that. You were sharing, Lance, how, we start to focus on the joy, and, and that is true. And I can share that this morning I was feeling kind of nostalgic, because I was going to be on this podcast, and, it would be my mom that I would call and say, hey, guess what I'm doing today, and share with her. And I was like, I don't have that. So you kind of feel like you're starting to go, what I call going dark. That shadow, I could feel the shadow starting to come over me. And then I'm like, wait, stop right there and think about, the beauty of this. And so it's like, okay, I can't call her, but I am going to speak about her, with you guys. And so beautiful is being able to share your beautiful mother's story, maybe not with her personally, but in a podcast with you guys. Saturday morning coffee. And oh, by the way, my mother loved her cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Had her special cup.
And I'm looking at your quote of saying, beautiful is learning to rise above that which weighs you down.
Yeah.
And I think that hits home, because as you and I go back to your mother seems like a woman who raised a beautiful woman who just lights up a room when she walked into it. And we've had in-depth conversations regarding that. My father was the same way. It doesn't matter. He'd be at the grocery store for milk and be gone for 2 hours, because he would just talk to everybody. And it really relates to you. You can see your mother coming through you. And I had the same conversation with my father today about having this conversation, because as we talked about is we have to find joy. We have to be able to look ahead and really look at the little things in life and enjoy them. Because at the end of the day, this is our temporary home.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, when you think about those three steps that I categorized all the quotes through in the book, I went through that, acknowledging the pain and anguish. It's like, this sucks, I'm not happy about this. And then acceptance of healing. And it's like, okay, like you mentioned, we have a choice. We can become the victim of this, or we can rise above it. And then acknowledging what beautiful is. And so there are days when I have to go through that little process, just to, keep myself moving along. And I have found it to be pretty helpful in doing that. Mm-hmm.
Another thing I love about the book, as you said, I love that you have a picture in there, and you have to buy the book to be able to see this beautiful picture, but your mom is stunning, and it's adorable seeing the two of you together. But I also just love the fact that
I'm not going to share the picture.
No sharing the picture, no.
No sharing. Buy the book.
It won't do it justice. They have to buy the book to see the picture. But in the book, you also have pages so that people can write their own beautiful is and fill that in, because no one else knows what beautiful is to you. You have to be able to share that, right? And I think hopefully that I'm saying that well enough, but I love that you're allowing people to take that time and be able to share what's on their heart in your book that you wrote.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you brought that up, because as I mentioned, and as Lance also has communicated, that, we all go through it in a different way, and it is subjective. And so I wanted to honor that, and because that's sacred to us, of what that means to us. And so I wanted to provide those pages, those empty journal pages, so people can, express whatever that is for them, whatever beautiful is for you, and what that looks like. So they could be a part of that, my contribution along with their contribution, creates a more meaningful impact for whatever it is they're going through.
Yeah, it's almost like a first step in the process of being able to acknowledge and moving forward. And then we're not just talking about grief, but we're also talking about personal issues, and mental health issues. That's a big problem right now, a lot of anxiety, financial issues of people, trying to rediscover who they are after what we've gone through or what we're going through. So, I know it's about somewhat of grief, but there's a lot more to this book. And this is what I'm going to say. This is a book that I'll probably read multiple times and get multiple different concepts of reality to it. And that's what I really love about this, is that there's multiple layers to this book, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
I'm so glad to hear that, and that was the intent. That was the intent, is to not just the grief, although that resonates throughout the book. As a matter of fact, last week I was asked to speak at a grief group, and I've never really done that before. And again, I'm driving to the group, and I'm thinking, oh, I need to call my mom. I gotta let her know this is, I'm doing this. And I'm like, what am I thinking? Like, it's just so natural to want to call on your mom, especially, that special person in your life. And so there I went again through my little process. I'm like, I've got to hold this together. I'm going into a grief group. And so we were going through, very much like what we're doing, is going through the quotes and seeing how it resonated with people, and the impact that had on individuals. It was almost like, wow, how did you know how I was thinking? And I was quite taken by that. And it's like, wow, it really was. But that's because I went through it and my own grief. But I also wrote it with the intention that we grieve about a lot of things. You know, we need to find that sweet spot on how we can manage that, because you know, as I've mentioned, it can take us down, and it has this ripple effect that it affects us. It affects us at work. It affects us with our families. It really affects our quality of life. And I know that in regards to my mother, oh, I could already hear her, you know. So when my mother was a little annoyed with me, or, you know, wasn't quite pleased, she would break my name into 2 syllables. And she would go, Lisa, like, you know, get it together. and I can hear that, you know, and that's that little voice of encouragement that really prompted me to write this book.
That's remarkable because, yeah, I remember those conversations very well. And I do recall, you know, the first time pushing my father's telephone number because, and I would always call him on everything. And he'd say, why are you calling me? You know the answer. You just want the affirmation. And I said, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
But,
we're a little selfish like that, aren't we?
yeah, we are. We are, but we have learned to find joy, and you're doing so many remarkable things. And I know it's Saturday morning, and we just barely touched on this subject, and we don't want to keep you because we want our listeners, our followers, to go out there and pick up this book. I'm telling you, beautiful is beautiful in so many ways. And it's going to not only move you, but it's going to change you in so many ways. And Lisa, I want to thank you personally for our conversations. And I look forward to our future conversations regarding what beautiful is. And
Thank
for
you.
you taking time to share your very emotional story with us on Saturday Morning Coffee.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I just, you both lighten my heart in knowing that you have provided for me an opportunity to share this story. And I'm very thankful for that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Tiffany, you want to say anything?
I was just gonna say, I mean, absolutely, and I know your mother is looking on this and is super proud. So I am so thankful that we'll be able to share this story with others, and I'm sure it'll be at the time of need, because like you said, there's different ways that we grieve, and every one of us is grieving for different things, and I think this is a perfect time for others to hear the story. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.